all arriving at the end of the pig parade for me to turn them across into the east pasture. But I paused here because I want to show you this. That extreme wetness right there, I think that's coming from underneath. I've begun to suspect. I knew there was a foundation of some kind here. That I knew. But I think there was a well, and that's bleeding up from the well. And part of the reason I think of that is because over here, underneath the road, the water continues to bleed out. And that's even though I've shut it off from above. I want you to see that before I work on it further. I threw some shell corn in among the brush that they haven't uprooted yet to encourage them to do so. I need to lop off branches too, what I can. And now that I can get in there, there's an old piece of carpet that's there for some reason. So anyway, I encourage them to do work where I'd like them to. And you see how wet that is right there? That water, I'm almost certain now, is coming up from underneath. There could have been an outhouse there, but some kind of a shaft that pierced the ground, maybe even the bedrock. I suspect a well. They're really working on those areas where I threw that shell corn. Then once they've found it all, they'll probably leave there. But when it's been fallow for so long, there's lots for them to work on. You take this little guy right here, brown with black spots. He's working on the old sods that they've turned up. And what I do now is when I bring them across, I throw the shell corn in the very places where I'd like them to work, because they soften the ground. So the spade will go in. They'll go down and tear up the roots. That helps. From this view, which is the top of this pig pasture thing, you can see things somewhat more clearly. They're working on uprooting the sod here, which is good, and in the process revealing an old system of ditches that I had here 40 years ago. I'm thinking that I dug by hand, but this isn't irrigated. I did have it irrigated back at that point, and I'm going to try to again this year if I can. But one way or another, I want them to do this and give it a new start. Do you see how nice they end up making it? Now that's the spot that they dug at to make a wallow. They like to lay up here in the sun. And I wanted to show you what I did with a similar spot down here. Yesterday's video, I said that I had blocked the end and was now letting the trench royal brim to irrigate this whole area instead of letting the water run through. Well, it is brimming right there. When I see a ripple like that, I'll throw a sod there because I don't want it in just one spot. I want the whole edge to brim. And right where Sally's standing, there was a wallow that, I don't know, one of the pigs made a wallow there when it was dry. And what I did, there you can see where they scraped at it. What I did this morning was I lengthened that wallow in both directions and have begun to make it into a zanja. And I'll let that soak a little bit and then do it again. And the area that it clearly is too wet, I'm moving that gradually to the left, to the northeast, and then we'll have it under control. I need to move it partly to get the ground and sod soft enough to be able to continue to dig. But I'm gradually going to leave this area pretty dry, well, irrigated, but the excessive wetness, to the extent that I can, I'm going to keep moving it over and over and over back across the hillside. While I was here, I lengthened the new zanja based on that wallow a little on both ends. I went past that little multiflora rose bush, and you can see the water's beginning to creep in here. But this is hard because it hasn't been softened yet. Wherever it brimmed, well, you can so clearly see the difference. That softens the ground, and then I can easily dig. There are going to be places that water starts to soak up to the surface because of what I've done here with the filling the trench royal. But it'll take a little bit of time. But I wanted to show you what I did here. I opened a hatch. Now here, see, the breast of the trench royal is too high. It should be brimming. I don't know how much of this you can see. From here to where I'm standing, it's just right, really. But then there's a high spot. Well, I used that high spot as a place to put a hatch because I want to soften the ground ahead of where I'm advancing that zonia. Because the ground right in there is a little bit hard to dig. You can see it's brimming a lot there. I can adjust that. And I need to do that then when I go along at the very end. I should probably do this now maybe. At the very end, I open a hatch at the end so that the water does the same service for what's below as this hatch is doing for that zonia. I don't know if you follow or not. There, I just opened that. And you see now the water is going to go down here on the end. Back in there, I don't need it so wet. Not really. Although I think it's probably wet enough already that I can advance that zonia. It's out here where I need it. From this perspective, there's that hatch that I was just showing you. You can see what it's doing. That water coming down through here to this level, and it doesn't take long before the ground gets soft. I could if it'd be harder work, but I could probably advance that zonia along here to already begin to pick this water up. But I think I'll give it till tomorrow, or at least this afternoon. This is uneven work here. I mean, there the breast is too high. Here it's just right. And then there it's just a tiny bit low. And then it gets too high again. All of this I can adjust over time.